What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a special taped episode of episode number 54 of Bettin and Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, and I will have my Ohio State. I don't like to call them friends, but we'll call them friends for now. Ohio State friend Charlie Freeman on with me, including picks from your favorite West Coast bias, Noah Maher, as well. Patrick is stuck at work, but thank you guys so much for joining in. We greatly appreciate it. Again, happy holidays to you all. For those of you, I hope you guys had a great Christmas. I'm recording this, of course, on the 26th. So a day after Christmas. Hopefully you guys all had a Merry Christmas for those who celebrate. And again, happy holidays to those that don't. But again, not again, but of course, happy early New Year to you guys. This will be the last Bettin and Boozin show before the New Year. So we're going to go into 2024 strong, guys. You guys have been amazing. All the support throughout this entire year. Bettin and Boozin started out early 2023. So, it's been basically one full year of Bettin and Boozin, and we can't thank you guys enough. Every single person that watches the podcast, listens to the podcast, you guys are what make this, worthwhile, and you guys are what keep us going. Because this was at the beginning of the day, Howard and I were talking. This was an experiment. Get another show on the podcast, see how it does, and it's really taken off. With flying colors. Our Breeders' Cup shows for we had over 3,500 views on our 3 shows in total. We really don't take that lightly. So thank you guys so much for keeping up the support throughout the entire year. And of course, keep the support going for 2024. But real quick, guys, we'll go through the peripherals down below. You'll see scrolling. Please go down below the video player, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the podcasts posted to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel. Also, again, subscribe, as it is the best way to help out our channel and to grow the HHH Racing Podcast. So please go down below, hit subscribe. Also hit the like button while you're down there as well. The second best way to support our channel, as it helps push out the podcast into the YouTube algorithm and hopefully get more people like you to come view the Bettin and Boozin, and of course the flagship show on the HHH Racing Podcast. Scrolling down below as well. Next show is Thursday. If you're watching this when it comes out Tuesday night or on Wednesday or even on Thursday morning, Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's December 28th. We will be covering the big card at Gulfstream on Saturday for the 30th, I believe, 12:30. All the dates get mixed up at this point, but for the 30th, they're going to have, including the Grade 2 Fort Lauderdale Stakes, and we're going to have on of Gulfstream Park, Brian Nadow. So you guys are not going to want to miss that one. A lot of great information coming your way this Thursday. Again, when I'm recording this on 12/26, this Thursday, 12/28 at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Please tune in to that. If you're more of an audio listener, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchors, where we post every single episode, not only of Bettin and Boozin, but every single episode that gets posted to the HHH Racing Podcast YouTube channel gets posted over on those 3 platforms as well. Go rate, review, and subscribe over there. Power picks still going very strong, guys. Out of 486 picks lifetime, that's over 2 years of picks, we are still much in the green. $2.22 on the ROI all time. Anything above $2 is a profit. The average for the average horse player is $1.60. So way in the green. If you guys are not subscribed, you're missing out. And what do we charge for this? $10, $20, $4 a weekend only. You get 2 full tracks of coverage, including those spot plays and price plays that I mentioned, but full PICK5 grids, ABCs, anything you need to be successful on a racing day. The Power Picks will have it. Patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast is where you find those, as well as the link in the description. And if you want to see, let's say you want to see a previous edition of the Power Picks before you buy, you can always go to hhhracingpodcast.com for all that, including great information about us and the podcast as well. But without further ado, guys, we're going to get right into the late pick 5 on Santa Anita on Friday. And they've got some very, very good races, including the grade, none are graded, but 2 listed stakes, the Blue Northern Stakes for 1 mile on the turf for 2-year-old fillies, and the Eddie Logan Stakes, 1 mile on the turf for 2-year-old males. So again, the 2-year-olds shine here on Bettin and Boozin, and we're going to be covering it all on the West Coast without West Coast bias himself. So to join me on front and center here is from the Ohio State University, but now at Gulfstream Park, basically speaking, Charlie Freeman. Charlie, what's going on, my man?
Not much. Good to be here. And yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense that we're always covering the 2-year-olds because we're the young guns after all the show. So
That's
let
true.
the
Yeah.
old heads cover the old horses, and we'll take all the young ones.
Yeah, you want to you want to take it that route? That's absolutely going to work. But guys, like I said, we're not going to waste any more of your time. Without further ado, we're going to get into the late pick 5 here. Santa Anita on Friday, 12:29 starts in the late pick 5 starts in race number 5. That is the Blue Northern Stakes. So we're starting off with a bang. Again, it is the Phillies race going a mile on the turf for $100,000. Full a field of 9 in this one. Morning line favorite. Again, we don't have morning lines as we are recording this on Monday or on Tuesday. I don't even know what freaking day it is anymore. On Tuesday, most likely morning favorite is going to be the number 6, Zona Verde for Juan Hernandez and Phil D'Amato. Second choice would be probably, I mean, there's a lot of
Highlands.
Highlands is one. Mo Fox Given could be also your second choice as well. Many different ways to go underneath Zona Verde as I bring up the picks right now, guys. And West Coast Bias was so nice to send his picks as well. He couldn't have a West Coast show on this show without Noah sending in his picks. So there they are on the bottom of the screen there, guys. You'll see Noah and I are going the exact same 865. That is Mo Fox Given over Zona Verde over Highlands. Not getting too creative here, but we are getting decently creative on top. But Charlie, you are going with the, again, presumed chalk. We don't know if this horse is actually going to be either morning line favored or post time favorite, but what we presume will be the favorite come post time, the number 6 Zona Verde for Juan and Phil D'Amato. What do you like most about Zona Verde?
Yes, I was originally actually going to put Mo Fox Given on top, and I thought that would be creative because for those of you who remember from Bettin and Boozin, when we were covering earlier when this horse was riding in the first week of November, I was very pro Mo Fox Given, went against the favorite, and the horse let me down. Did not get a good trip, and I know we'll get to the replay in a moment. But
Yep.
so yeah, the reason I'm going with Zona Verde on top ultimately is there's just a lack of speed in this race. If you look, I mean, Mo Fox Given, even if the horse got a cleaner trip, likes to be a little more off the pace. Highlands will probably be stalking right behind, but still doesn't really usually show much early speed. Antifona, the other horse that I have underneath, another one that likes to sit back. So I just see a lot of horses that like to sit back. And again, we'll go to the replay in a moment. But the reason Zona Verde was able to win was, it was reasonable fractions, wasn't slow by any means. But Hernandez was able to get Zona Verde, get her right on the lead. I'm sure that's exactly what he's going to do again this time. If anything, probably gets a little bit of an easier gate than last time after being kind of on the outside and having to navigate across so many horses. Could just probably shoot out and get over to the inside a lot quicker this time. I just think Zona Verde has a very realistic chance to wire this field. I don't really see anyone bringing too much of threat on top. And even if some of these other horses that we'll touch on get cleaner trips, I just think unless someone presses Zona Verde, why can't this horse just wire the field again?
I mean, I was with you. I almost put Zona Verde on top as well for just the sole pace scenario. It almost looked like a switch clicked on in this horse's head last time out. Was able to not really under urging either. Juan, I could show the early bit. Juan never really asked this horse to go, but Zona Verde outside the 11 horse, the gray right here, you'll see Juan's not really asking her too much, but maybe a little bit just to get early position. And then I think Juan just notices that no one's going and he's just going to take it by force, which obviously ended up being the correct play in the fact that he got the speed alone in pretty reasonable fractions. So if this horse has early speed out of the gate, there's no reason why this horse can't be there at the end. And you'll see she just ends up running down without really any contestant down the lane. And, she finally tries to get run down there, but, really nice ride there by Juan Hernandez. So if Zona Verde is going to take the lead again and take the initiative, there's no reason why she can't win again, just based pace scenario alone. But Charlie, we'll go to Mo Fox Given here, and I'll let you talk through the replay. Noah and I both have this horse on top. You have the horse in second, so we're all very interested in Mo Fox Given. But I'm gonna go the replay. Here is the number 6 that you guys are watching out for, and we can go to the top of the stretch here. Just very, very, not a very good trip whatsoever.
No, honestly, it couldn't really been worse. I mean, you can see again the horse towards the back, and I also will touch on if you resume it from here.
Yep.
The other horse I was interested in, the 2 horses, actually the 2 horse in this race, And the reason I was interested is that horse was coming over, had like a slow start, was kind of just stuck in the back the whole time. And you can see the two had to make up so much ground. So for me, again, if you're going to go against a speed favorite, I always think it's smart to go with closers. So I do think the horse could get it at a price underneath. Yeah, if you look at Mo Fox Given in the back, still not being asked at all yet. Actually, let the two go by him, then get squeezed in there, has
Yeah,
nowhere to go,
a little
just
bit.
is waiting. But what
Yeah.
caught my attention was right here. When he dives down to the inside, he's still not being asked, and the horse is just naturally gliding through those horses. And you can see the horse still isn't, Mo Fox Given still
And
hasn't really
it's
gotten going. And then right there, you see the horse
yeah,
starts to really pick it up.
and it's
But there was
all
just no more time.
real quick, and sorry to interrupt you, Chad, but it's
Oh, you're good.
all thing is it's all hand urged too. It's not there's no whip
Right.
involved. I mean, you can tell right now the rider, I believe it's Free Sue, just no, I mean, maybe shoulder tapping, but you realize she's not gonna get there, but still it's kept on very well over a like I said, the sole leader in Zona Verde. But I was very interested in this is the classic trouble trip angle.
100%. And for me, that's why I kind of felt with Mo Fox Given. I think anybody that's kind of closing, if Mo Fox Given gets a cleaner trip, I think will go by them. And I also like that you've seen in the past that, in some of her earlier races, she was a little closer to the lead. So I do think getting a cleaner stalking trip would be ideal. And I think Mo Fox Given could be the first person to get the jump on Zona Verde. I think the question is just going to ultimately come down. And that's why I wanted these two to be my top two is, will Zona Verde get an easy enough lead that no one can catch her? Or if she does get caught, Mo Fox Given, again, with a cleaner trip, will likely be the first one to get the jump. Because you look at the history, and this is not a horse that wants to be that far back.
No,
You
that's
look last
exactly
time
what I was
out
going
and
to
on
say. Yep.
debut, this horse wants to be third or fourth and be like
I
two
mean,
lengths off the lead.
and not to mention those, I mean, look, I mean, a mile at Santa Anita last time out, 26-3, 45-4.
Yeah,
This
they were
horse was right
flying.
there,
We saw
you
that
know,
one. Yeah, they were flying.
and that was the one where Lord Bullington just came flying over the top in a very pace
Yep.
dependent race. But Mo Fox Given was that close to that pretty heavy of a pace, just shuffled back maybe the last time out. I think if Mo Fox Given sits a little bit closer, that's where I'm very interested in a horse like Mo Fox Given, where you should get a pretty decent price, although price might come down because people will be seeing what we're seeing with the trouble trip
Right.
angle. Real quick, Highlands, just that same type of trip, what I was talking about. It was a impressive win last time out for Peter Miller. Loses Hernandez to Zona Verde, but picking up Flavian Pratt's not necessarily the worst thing in the world by any means. And you're picking up an improving horse. Very impressive last time out. Now stepping back up for Peter Miller, second off a decently long layoff. I mean, a month and a half is nothing, or 2 months, excuse me, is nothing too major, but still coming to the West Coast for the first time. Now stepping up a little bit. I think Highlands has a shot as well. If Mo Fox Given doesn't take the initiative, it is a little bit farther back. Highlands could be the one to get first run. And real quick, Charlie, you said you want to touch on Antifona, who is the two horse that you mentioned was a little bit farther back. Definitely had a cleaner run than Mo Fox Given, but had to make up the same amount of ground, if not a little more.
Yeah, for me, what's interesting about this horse, and I mean, I don't actually know if there's any sort of like stat or necessary basis, but for me, I do notice, I actually saw it today when I was at Gulfstream watching some of these Euros, is when they have their first race over in the US, it doesn't always work out the cleanest. They have to have that adjustment. It can take some time. And that's what you kind of saw with the two. The horse didn't get the best start, didn't look overly comfortable at the beginning, had a lot of work to do. And again, for me, I just think this could be a closer that comes flying late and can finish in the money. And I just think, now that the horse got that one race in America under its belt, I think she's going to be a little more comfortable this time out. And again, if you're just looking for a price play underneath, I certainly think this horse can fly late and get somewhere in the money or around the money. Ultimately, I was between this horse and the 5, and I just think you're going to get no money value on the 5 because people are going to see Cox train the horse.
Yep.
Now Peter Miller's got the horse, Flavian Pratt aboard. A lot of people are going to bet it down. And you really could see, if you watch the replays, the clear difference between a horse that was in an optional claim in 50,000 and a G3 stakes. Because when you watch that race, when they're all coming home, everybody looks stuck in the mud, and the 5 Highland kind of just took advantage and went by. So
Yep.
for me, wanted to put a value play underneath, but ultimately I think it's mainly between the 8 and the 6.
I mean, this horse was 42-1 last time out. You're definitely not getting to that. But anywhere, in that 8, 10-1 range would be good. And you'll see, Charlie, you were talking about foreign shippers. John Sadler's 2 for 33 in the last 5 years with foreign shippers. So maybe that raises exactly what Antifona needed to maybe get a little bit going. And 74 is not far off the
Not
pack
terrible.
whatsoever by any means. So take another step forward, second time in the States. Antifona could definitely be um, at least underneath, but we'll probably need some pace to be able to get home on the win end. I'm going 865 along with West Coast Biased going 865 as well. Charlie's going 682. Charlie, going to switch over the race here. Race number 6 is an optional claiming 50,000 going a mile. And again, a 2-turn mile is at Santa Anita on the dirt and draws a field of 7 with most likely morning line favorite going to be the number 3, Matanzas Creek for Pratt and Tim Yakteen. Second choice, most likely going to America Red, White, Blue for Frankie Dettori and Mark Galat. And then third choice is kind of, I mean, it could be Order and Law, the old by Grandpa on the outside. Could be the one Closo, excuse me, the Calbred from Maldonado. So it could be a lot of different ways, but definitely your top 2 choices are the 3 and the 5. Switching over right now, guys, I'm going with the number 5 on top, and so is Charlie. Both going
We
with
all got the same
America,
3.
Red, White, Blue. We do all have the same 3. Noah, however, is going with the number 1, Closo on top.
Of course, he
But
takes the
I,
Cali.
well,
He
of course,
does.
yeah, the West Coast bias. We know how this goes, but I'll go first on this one. We'll switch off here. As again, we're going tape show for you guys, going to go a little bit quicker. I love this kind of turn back to the dirt here, guys. I'm going to go full screen. You can look here. You see this horse has been on turf. Glatz had America Red, White, Blue on the turf last 3. It hasn't run bad whatsoever. Hasn't gotten the win, but last time, again, starter allowance company, but a 92 buyer. Got a good trip, don't get me wrong, but doing it very emphatically at a mile at Del Mar, winning by 6.5, and is always given that consistent run, and I know that's what Charlie is going to key in on, and as I know, you guys know how much he loves the consistent runners, but finally broke through, hadn't been able to win, was just a few lengths off. But fine at 4 to 5, nonetheless, you definitely won't get 4 to 5 here on this horse. You'll definitely get a lot more, but winning by 6.5 lengths in an emphatic display, I'd assume just it's going to get the same trip exactly. This time out, just a nice stalking trip from the 5 post and the 7 horse field. I love the draw. And Charlie, I don't know. Like I said, I'll let you continue on, but realistically, just to come back to the turf based off this buyer and the trip just sets up really nice for America Red, White, Blue.
No, everything you hit on is exactly what I was seeing. I saw a horse that, look, as you said, not like America Red, White, Blue couldn't run on the turf. I mean, those are very respectable figures, but you can see, which for me is also a positive thing because it doesn't look like it was any sort of, panic to move to the turf or maybe the horse was losing form. Just wanted to try something different. And again, stuck to the same level, no sort of concerns of class drop. The horse has just been consistent wherever. But as you touched on, clearly reached a different level on the dirt. And the big thing that I also see that I personally like is I understand people might see the money burner angle or the second-itis or whatever. But if you look also, what I like is for a horse that likes to be pretty forwardly placed, whether it's a hot or cold pace, the horse has been able to still be successful. I mean, you see with the 86 figure that it was a really hot pace. I mean, 21 and 5, 44 and 9. They were flying going a mile there, still is able to stay right with it, loses, gets a second. And then, even with a more moderate pace, wins going away, is right there with that cold pace. Granted, that was on the turf, which again, for me, makes me a little more happy that where the horse couldn't win with the cold pace wasn't on the dirt surface. So I just, again, as you touched on as well, love the consistency, love that the surface history on the dirt looks good. And I think the horse can return to that form. Obviously, we have to wait and see that. And again, from a trip perspective, I agree. I think the 3 is probably going to send. I could see this 5 sit right behind the 3 and wait to make its move.
And I don't know about you, Charlie, why you didn't have the 3 near the lead, but you have, or near the top of your picks, of course. Sorry, my apologies. But Matanzas Creek last time out, just super easy. Granted, a very nice number in a 96, but jumps off the page to you almost 68 to a 96 completely by himself out there on the lead. He's definitely not going to get that this time, at least from my perspective. America Woodlight Blue is not slow at all. I would love just to see a stalking trip right off of Matanzas Creek. The 2's not slow by any means, and the 1's not slow by any means either.
5, yeah.
So either a stalking trip for America Red, White, Blue if the inside 2 go, but if they don't, I would love to just see a nice pressy, stocky trip just to the outside of the Yakteen runner, give a little bit of pressure, and hopefully being able to overpower at the top of the stretch. I just don't like the horses that are going to be bet heavily just based on that last buyer. They do it completely uncontested. Granted, again, I'm not hating on the figure at all. I'm not saying it's incorrect. The horse ran bang up race last time out, but doing it without pace pressure in a maiden race, now coming up to winners for the first time. The horse is going to be towards even money. Just plenty of things where I would love to play against a horse like this. Um, Come when I can find really good angles, especially with a horse like America Red, White, Blue. Charlie, I'll let you touch on anything I just spoke on, and then of course go to the number one who Noah has on top, Closo.
Yeah, honestly, with me with the three, you kind of touched on a lot of what I was going to say. The concern for me is, again, as you touched on, I mean, it was a maiden race, very light figures. The horse was unpressured. Especially would have liked to see, I get the speed figure with the 96 or buy figure is great, but I would have liked to see with a cold pace. You kind of see how the horse got up by a length or two and then won by a length or two. I would have liked to see the horse romp away, win by 5, 6 lengths. I'm not saying I need the horse to be perfect. I'm just saying if you're going to get that easy of an uncontested pace against weaker competition than this one, where it's going to be horses that have run against tougher competition and who will make this horse work. And as you touched on, considering he's got Flavien Prat and Yakteen as the trainer, this horse is going to be hammered down. This is the exact kind of race where I'm like, and we've touched on this before on the show, where you want to find where a heavy favorite is beatable. And I think this is going to be one of those heavy favorites that is beatable, and I will happily play against. I still think the horse is good enough to be top three. And look, we could be wrong. This horse could
Yep.
take another step forward and he could wire this field and we look silly. But for me, that's a risk I'm personally willing to take. And then, touching on the one horse, I
And then,
just see a
sorry, Charlie,
similar.
real quick
Oh, sorry, go
before
for it.
you go on, the other thing I wanted to touch on that I forgot about is this horse is also going to be going 2 turns for this first time, and it might not
Right.
be a problem. You can go to the Dam here. The Dam was a very nice horse in her own right, on the East Coast, Cuvée Uncorked, but Dirt Routes is 2 for 5, but that buyer figure is nowhere near the 96 of Matanzas Creek that ran last time. You can look at the sibling PPs here. Sip of My Chardonnay was the horse that you're going to look for here, going routing at Gulfstream Park in like 2018. None of the other horses have run yet. So again, lower level races, but still the dirt route number is to be factored in. But again, this horse is going to be even money, doing a lot of things for the first time, taking most likely pace pressure. At least that's the way it looks on paper, going 2 turns for the first time, not going to be able to set fractions by himself. It's just many things like that can kind of culminate to a play against horse for me. But again, Charlie, go ahead, finish out with Closo.
Yeah, so with Closo, I just see honestly a very similar trip that we think the 5 horse is going to get. I mean, you look at the best, the effort last time out, sat right off the pace and just couldn't quite get by, temporarily had a brief lead and then got caught by a horse coming from the back. But ultimately, again, I like the figure. I know it's not exactly the angle we like where it's a back-to-back best figure, but still, I feel like with that 80 and 82, this is a horse, and I'm sure Noah would probably be saying the same kind of thing, that could be just knocking on the door waiting for that, big breakout race to take a step forward. And again, I think from the pace perspective and the saving trip on the rail, I could very well see, the 3 send, and then you just kind of have the 1 on the rail and the 5 that we talked about come over a little bit. And I think the 1 and 5 could probably sit right next to each other just behind the 3 horse and then wait to make their moves together. And then kind of just a question of which one has more in the tank. But for me, I could very well see either of these horses win the race at a much better value than the 3. And again, I think the form looks good. I think the trip works out nicely. I think the distance, clearly this horse likes. I think also, I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's Dumb or Santa Anita, because you kind of see the horse used to run well at Santa Anita,
Yep.
and the Del Mar efforts, weren't great, but then kind of put it together back to back. And again, for someone like me who likes consistency, it was nice to see kind of back to back 80s after, after that 85, the horse ripped off. Didn't look like that form was coming back. And now it seems like the horse is kind of in a little bit of a groove.
Yeah, just give the horse a little bit of time. Just over a month in between races. Now coming back a month and a half later, Cruel Jack is very good with these types of campaigns. So now, and he doesn't always get bet a lot, so you're going to get a decent price on Closo most likely. If Closo continues to improve, could definitely be one at a nice price of 5, 6 to 1, somewhere in that range. But I'm going 5-1-3. Charlie's going 5-3-1. Noah's going 1-3-5. As I switch on, if I switch up the picks right now, guys, going on to race number 7. This is the co-feature on the day. Again, this is the male version of the Blue Northern Stakes. This is the Eddie Logan going 1 mile on the turf for 2-year-old males. Field of 9 in this one. Favoritism, I'd probably lean towards the number 9, Stay Hot on the outside. Free Sue, Peter Urton. 8, American Hope shouldn't be too far away given the connections of Gary and Mary West, Pratt, and D'Amato. And then probably, you're probably looking to Final Boss. Lord Bullingdon is a horse that usually always takes money. So there's a lot of different ways you can go in this race. But Charlie and I are both going with the number 9, Stay Hot. Noah is actually the odd man out, going with the number 1, Charge for Gold, who looks to be a pretty decent price. And again, if you want any type of picks from him, I believe, obviously being West Coast bias, he is actually on vacation right now, but he should be posting his picks on Twitter. So at Noah MEAG is on Twitter is where you'll go look for those. But again, a field of 9, we switch over. We both have the number 9, Stay Hot. Charlie, I'll let you go first here. What kind of caught your eye here, and what'd you like most about the number 9, Stay Hot?
Yeah. I don't know if you could pull up the replay for a second, but that's kind of what stuck out with me with Stay Hot is, I think the name is perfect. This horse was absolutely hot off that turn. I mean, this horse absolutely flying. Came from the
number
clouds.
9 is I believe the number 9, right? Yeah, the number 9. So you're looking at
yes, yeah. The people who know me and actually raced against Miracle Mark. What number was Miracle Mark? Because I know that's another horse. I think that's the horse I have
Number
second.
2.
So I'll talk about. Okay, so I'll talk about the 9 and the 2 here because these are the horses I was covering. And the 2 got a good trip. The 9's trip wasn't bad, but certainly wasn't as easy. They're going at I'd say a very reasonable pace as well in this race. But yeah, as we get to eventually get into the turn and approach the final stretch, I mean, this 9 horse look at how wide that horse was to start off with, which
Horses in the
normally can
parking
be
lot.
tiring. Yeah, this horse was stopping by to say hi to the fans and then go show off. And you see the 2 who, again, I have in second, still running a nice trip by no means. I mean, it was honestly a winning effort against most horses. You see going by the other horses that were on the lead. And then Stay Hot just said, yeah, I respect the effort, but I'm just going to go take this win myself. And just rallies, gets up against the horses that had a pretty easy lead at the beginning and finished so strong. So for me, I love that effort. Was coming off of a tough race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. It's a tough ask after running a race like that. It was still only 17-1. So, I mean, obviously took not a lot of money, but enough money when you look at the fact that this horse was coming off of 3 straight maiden
Not to mention
races.
also, I was going to say, not to mention off a maiden race going straight into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf.
Right. And you also have to realize, like, even though the horse got 10th, the horse only lost by 5 lengths to Unquestionable, who is an ultra talented horse. So for me, I think Stay Hot looks great. I know the figures aren't anything eye-catching, but if you actually watch the replays, watch the tape, I think the horse is a lot better than the figures show. And we'll get to the best bets later, but I feel very strongly about Stay Hot. I'll let you talk about the 8 because I know you have the 8 underneath, but I just want to say about Miracle Mark, since that was the other horse in the replay.
Yep.
Kind of already covered it, but again, I thought it was a really nice effort and kind of a cool angle to see. After you see last time out, this horse wired the field and then had a very different trip this time. So for me, I like the versatility. Again, another one to come straight out of a maiden race to go into a grade 3 shows D'Amato, who absolutely knows what he's doing, has confidence in Miracle Mark, and he ran a very respectable effort last time. I know you talked about, or you will be talking about later, how good Constitution horses have been. So I certainly think a horse will get a little more value on with the D'Amato horse. I think Miracle Mark could certainly be in the money.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, versatility-wise, this horse likes to be up front. Almost in this race, kind of looks like the angle I always talk about is, maybe the horse just inherited the lead and that didn't necessarily want to go fully to the lead, but still ran a very nice race in the maiden. And again, in the mile, ran a different race, just lost by a neck to a better horse, frankly, that day, and Stay Hot, having to come all the way through the parking lot, over the hill, up the woods, or through the woods and down to grandma's house and finally get to the finish line first. But that's, again, Charlie touched on it. Stay Hot, just even though it's down to that 71, super wide, better trip this time. Hopefully for Stay Hot, can kind of tuck in that 2 wide place, third flight, and hopefully with Friso aboard, who's ridden him the entire way through. Would love to see another step forward for Stay Hot, who looks to sit a very nice trip from the outside. But I'll go through, like I said, I like the number 8, American Hope. Was a very easy trip, to be fair, last time out at a mile at Del Mar. Maybe the mile is not necessarily what this horse wants, but this maiden race was still very good. A troubled trip the whole way through. Was tight, very tight early, couldn't get out back on the backstretch, and was able to come home with a pretty nice flourish to Invincible, who's also in this race. I believe it's the number 4. Yeah, the number 4, Invincible here, who hasn't really been able to show back to that 70 here. Ran not probably the worst race in that mile out of everyone else. But being that this horse broke its maiden and ran its best races at 6 and 5 furlongs respectively, but practically broke is one for Glatt. That's going to be another one towards the lead. And again, just all this type of speed. The 5 twirling points not slow. The 6 final boss is not slow. Miracle Mark's obviously not slow, and American Hope's not slow either. But I think American Hope, being that this race here showed that the horse can rate. I feel like this horse would be a great stalking trip from the outside, one to get a jump on a horse like Stay Hot. So if Stay Hot is going to be farther back, maybe wide again, you'd look to someone like American Hope to be able to get the job done. And arguably one of the horses with the most upside in a race like this, going from 63, a decent jump, to 72 second time out, breaking the maiden, and now maybe jumping up to a high 70s buyer and winning third time out for Phil D'Amato, who's no stranger to winning out west on the turf. But as I touched on, I had the number 2, Lord Bullingdon. I not really my favorite pick, honestly, underneath, but if the pace looks as quick as it does, this is a horse that I would look for underneath, third, maybe second. But the horse won in the Qatar Gold Mile on the Breeders' Cup weekend in a lightning fast pace. I mean, they went 45-4, but 110-1. And even though it's Santa Anita, that's still very fast to the 3/4 mark. So Lord Bullingdon took advantage of that pace scenario and didn't get the cleanest trip last time. I won't sugarcoat it, was had to alter course down the lane. So not the cleanest trip by any means. So Lord Bullingdon could be one to close if the pace was hot, but I do like a horse to the outside rather, and like stay hot rather than Lord Bullingdon. But again, with the pace scenario, I could definitely see Lord Bullingdon coming up for, second or third, some minor placings. And Noah, I'll touch on Charge for Gold. I mean, because Noah has this horse on top. Noah has Stay Hot in second and Lord Bullingdon in third, just like I do. But Charge for Gold he has on top. This is an improving horse for Phil Oviedo, which not a name you see too often. Only 69 runners in the year, but maybe improving. Had to do the dirty work in that race at Del Mar, where a lot of these horses are coming out from. Look, maybe he's looking for this horse to maybe sit the trip like the maiden race, going 5 furlongs. I'm just not sure this horse wants, any bit of this mile necessarily. And the Omaha Beaches haven't been the best on turf. 0 for 17 in turf routes. So definitely a smaller sample size and could take a step forward off these races. But there's just other horses that I would want coming out of a spot like this than a 2-year-old coming from the inside with Omaha Beach, who, hasn't really had any good turf runners so far in his young stallion career. But I'm going 9-8-2, Stay Hot. Stay Hot, American Hope, Lord Bullingdon. Charlie's going 9-7-8, Stay Hot, Miracle Mark, American Hope. Noah is going 1-9-2, Charge for Gold, Stay Hot, Lord Bullingdon. Guys, switching over to race number 8 here. And these two back-to-back maiden special weights for 65,000. This one's for Philly. Philly's 2 years old, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. And this one draws a full field of 11. You have 2 Bafferts in the middle, and She's the Law. Flavian Pratt, Mark Glatt, most likely going to be your favorites. But we talk about it all the time, guys. Always keep your eyes on the board. If you're wanting to bet like a double into the last race, you can always check probables. Will Pays, as I always check Will Pays. Will Pays will give you maybe like the 7th race. Check your probables, see who's going to be the favorite in the next race. That will give you an indication on where the money lies. But it'll switch on right now. And Charlie, my friend, you are going against the Bafferts. Anti-Baffert here today in this race, going to number 5. She's the Law. 'Tis the Law. She's the Law. Flavian Pratt, Mark Glatt. And again, we're not getting too creative here, guys. The 5, 6, 7 look the best on paper. All first-time starters. So we're going against all the horses with experience. But Charlie, I'll let you touch on it. I'll let you touch on it after, but I'll touch on number 5. She's the Law first. A lot of these horses with experience never, they didn't really do anything for me here. I'll go through them real quick just because we have time. Where's My Ring is a horse coming out of the juvenile fillies. Didn't run very well at all. And now is coming back to the sprinting distance, which I guess would be, your kind of angle on this horse. But a maiden going to the Surfer Girl. So Val Brinkhoff definitely had faith in this horse, but coming back to the 6.5, just kind of taking advantage of that pace scenario. I think I think the 5.5 might even suit this horse a little more than the 6.5. I'm not sure this horse wants to go long at all. So maybe the 6 fits, but I like other horses. I like the firsters have a little bit more upside to me. Too loose to track for Papadromo. We all know he's not the best coming off these, with these 2-year-old horses. So I'm looking to stay away, especially with a horse with these typical efforts at 83 to 1 and 26 to 1. Petit Ange for Victor Garcia and Thiago Pereira. I mean, optional claiming company at Del Mar and Santa Anita just fading away both times at both 5.5 and 6.5. Now looks to get a tougher group. Not really looking their creative quality as one started Golden Gate. Couldn't get the job done there. Puts blinkers on. I am particularly hammy to my Lord Nelson fillies, but not for me. But She's the Law is who I'm keying on. And I have Kinza and Splendora for Baffert, those two. Tahini's the one for Papadromo. Coastal Cowgirl for Mark Glatz, the other Glatt, Miss Boj, and Motet. But She's the Law is who I'm looking to for a number of reasons here. Mark Glatt, guys, you have the stats here. 14% all-time first-time starters, but goes up to 21% sprinting on the dirt with positive ROI, might I add. So he's winning with horses that are at decent prices. Constitution, with 2-year-old first-time starters winning at 17%, which is much better than any other sire in this race. And we'll go look over him as we go to the Bafferts, who are obviously going to take most likely going to take more money, but dirt sprinting being great for Constitution as well. Just many things on the upside. Glatt, again, good with first-time starters, picks up Flavian Pratt, gets a great post. I love the 5 post for a horse like this. Most likely going to sit second flight, behind the Bafferts would be my guess. But they're definitely not. I mean, these Bafferts are, as sharp as they come, working forwardly as well. Charlie, I'll let you touch on, going through these Baffert horses, and we'll touch on some Baffert stats. Of course, very, very good first time out. Very, very good dirt sprinting. But I'll just let you go through here. Kinza and Splendora, anything you want to mention here on the Bafferts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of touched on it. The horses with experience. I mean, we've talked about on this show many times how I tend to like to look towards first-time starters whenever I can. But honestly, for me, again, I think the 5, 6, and 7 are probably going to take the majority of the money. Those who have started haven't shown much. You can see for Glatt and Pratt, She's the Law working very forwardly. Obviously, the Bafferts are because he always has his horses working very forwardly, and it's always something you want to look for. And yeah, for me, it was just a matter of, again, looking at the trainers, looking at the works, as you touched on, as well as paying attention to the sires and dams and their past success. And again, ultimately, as you touched on, the Bafferts are probably going to take the majority of the money. I'm sure She's the Law is still going to be a fairly short price.
Yep.
Clearly, it's a well-meant horse for going for $385,000. And picking up Pratt again is also very important to me as well. Obviously he can do magical things with horses. He's one of the best jockeys in the very least in the U.S. and has a lot of success in Cali. So to be able to get maybe a little more value in a horse that's working forwardly with Pratt, I think She's the Law makes the most sense. But certainly you can't look over the Bafferts, who also are clearly well meant, especially Kinza at $350,000. And again, you look at the works. I mean, a minute flat 59-3, and then for Splendora 46-4. I know it's West Coast, but are you kidding me? A minute 59-3. So these two are certainly flying as well. So for me, those were the 3 that really stood out the most.
Yeah, and I was talking about sire stats. Carpe Diem wins only at 9%, as like I said, a Constitution 17% first time out for 2-year-olds, and Splendora Audible's first time out has been pretty atrocious, to say the least. 4 for 60 first time out with an average buyer of 43. So I'm looking, just kind of playing the averages game here, guys. Obviously, Baffert can win in a spot like this, but with a horse hopefully is going to be third choice. With Constitution, Mark Glatt's very good first time out. There's just many things that I like more about She's the Law, especially I shouldn't say especially, hopefully a better price, but we won't know obviously till post time. I'll go through a few more here. Papadromo, guys, first time out, 4 for 95, only 16% in the money in the last 5 years. We all know Papadromo's not good first and second time out, especially with 2-year-olds. So I'll easily look other places. And Peter Urton is 9%, 10% with dirt spinners first time out. So again, the numbers aren't there. Matoli is 11% for 2-year-old first time starters, along with Connect, who is 12% 2-year-old first time starters. So again, just playing the averages game. Of course, look at the board, but She's the Law is where I'm going to look for in a spot like this. I'm going 5-7-6. She's the Law. She's the Law. Splendora Kinza. Charlie's going She's the Law, Kinza, Splendora. And Noah's going Splendora, She's the Law, Kinza. So again, we're all in the same three, the obvious three, of course. But again, look at the board, see where the money's going, and that could, give you an inclination one way or the other. Going on to the last race, guys, and we're going to go through this one quick as well. Race number 9, main special weight. This is the mile on the turf for 2-year-old maidens. Again, a field of 9 with 2 also eligibles as I pull up right now. Morning line favorite, probably number 2, guy named Joe for Rispoli and Doug O'Neill after a very good second last time out. And Charlie, I know, wants to go through that replay as well. Second choice, and maybe Let Seamus Go could be there as well. This underneath guy named Joe, you could go many, many different ways as regards to favoritism, and both Charlie and Noah are going with the number 2 guy named Joe. But I actually am going with the number 9 Ario on the outside for Pratt and Peter Miller. But Charlie, I'll let you go first and talk about this one. Like I said, I know you want to watch the replay. What would you like most about the number 2 guy named Joe?
Yeah, so as you touched on, I mean, at the beginning, look, this horse likes to close, has been right there. Also, just a great name, guy named Joe. Trained by Doug O'Neill. You look last time out. I completely understand if you want to look at the angle of like the money burner, where this horse went off at $1.30 and $1.80 and just missed twice. But for me, the real thing I liked when I watched the replays and saw last time out was in the past. Is if you look at these last 2 efforts specifically, I know it's technically 3 straight times of the same buyer, but for me, I see it more as like the 2 same and then moving up angle. Because if you look, last 3 back the horse and no excuses, but 2 back the horse got steady at the beginning. This time, I know you'll pull up the replay. Horse had a terrible break and then had to go very wide again to try to make up for it. So I'll let you show the break, and then I know we can fast forward to the stretch. It's also the 10. It's the 10 horse here. You see a horse get stuck in the gate. And for a horse that's a closer that doesn't show early speed, that's even more concerning, because he's already naturally going to spot the field some lengths. So you can see pretty far back.
I mean, that's about 5 lengths, 6 lengths.
Right. Yeah, so, should not be that far off. And then if you get to the stretch, this horse is wide. You can see actually right next to the 3, who I'll touch on as well, Potential Spam, I think is the name, which is another horse I liked. But yeah, you see the 3 and the 10. Those are the 2 horses I have as my top 2. Both had a very wide trip. But you can see guy named Joe is rolling late, and for these for these horses that don't really show speed for these maidens, and don't really pass, it's nice to see that he was flying late and showed the ability to pass horses and make a move. So I think with a cleaner trip, hopefully breaks out better as well. Doesn't have to go quite as wide. I think guy named Joe is clearly the horse to beat. Going into my second choice, Potential Spam, kind of touched on it already. Again, for a lot of these horses, this one actually does have the angle where it's a career best buyer back to back and has the right to step forward. And you can see, has been a long price in every single race. Will likely get bet down more in this race. Another Doug O'Neill. So I guess I'm going for the Doug O'Neill double here. These 2 on top. Last time just missed by 3/4 of the length. Again, this time just missed by a length. Also, it says in the comments, which I guess we didn't catch, was studied early apparently. But then again, was still very wide. Had to make up another ground. And again, just kind of taking a similar angle with Potential Spam. And I would argue maybe this horse would be a little more appealing to bet, even though guy named Joe looks better. You're probably going to get no value. I'm guessing that horse will probably be 8-5, 9-5 if you're lucky. I think Potential Spam will probably be closer to like 5, 6, 7, 8-1, somewhere in that range. And another horse that, again, just had a much stronger trip. You can see is making progress. Hasn't had the best figures to work with as a horse that likes to close as well. So maybe hopefully can get a little more pace to deal with. But so those are my top 2. And then in third, I went with the number 7, Let Seamus Go, ridden by Arlington. I'm not going to say legend because he got the advantage of riding a bunch of 1-9 Ravellis, but nonetheless, still going as a guy who's getting a little more of an old head now, Jose Valdivia Jr. With Let Seamus Go, my angle honestly is kind of look at the flip side of things. These are weaker horses. The horses that I like are closers. So if there isn't enough pace, Let Seamus Go could absolutely wire this field. This is not a strong field. My main concern, honestly, was look at 37-1. The horse clearly made a big step forward from last time out and ran well and responded well, changing to the route from more of the sprint format. But the main concern I would let Seamus go and why this horse lower is this horse got an absolute dream trip. And the replay we showed earlier was the 8 horse, got to the lead, sat right off the leaders,
We can go
got
through it real
clean.
quick.
If you go to the, just go to the stretch. You can kind of
I mean,
see the
you can see
horse
the
is
A
just,
right
yeah,
here, just
exactly.
setting right off, and then we'll
I
go
think
through.
just gets a dream trip the whole way. You can see is towards the inside a little bit more, no traffic at all. Has every right to go by the one who did the majority of the dirty work. And then you see doesn't fade by any means, but also doesn't really show any kick. Just kind of sat there the whole time and got past. Could this horse wire them? Absolutely, or maybe sit off the pace by a little and maybe actually go by. Possibly, I just don't see it, but that's why I have that horse underneath.
Yeah, and look, guy named Joe could definitely win. Maybe the 4 could even win as well. I just we talk about blanket finishes a lot and how in turf racing that can be a designation of really just not a good race. Maybe there's horses coming from the back, but maybe they don't really have that late kick to be able to get back. And I know a guy named Joe had a little bit, a rough trip, was wide, was way far back. But I mean, that's the horse's running style. I mean, granted, was a little bit closer here, definitely closer to the 9 1/4. But with passing tired horses and stuff like that, guy named Joe could definitely win. But I'm looking for a fresh face in a race like this. And Ario is where actually I shouldn't say a fresh face, excuse me, but a horse that maybe wasn't a part of that blanket finish, kind of looking, for excuses and where can I go. The number 9 Ario was in that race towards the front, was not necessarily, got steady necessarily, was just very in tight the whole way through down the stretch. Never really was able to get out and get a clean run. I just think with that, there's kind of a lack of pace in a race like this. Charlie touched on the number 7, Let Seamus Go, might be towards the front. But other than that, I mean, there's really no one that,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
really it.
Classic Alfie, we don't know. I have the horse in 3rd. I'll get to that in 1 second. Guy named Joe, no speed. Shot of Courage really didn't have any speed. Potential Spam, maybe some 2 back,
Not
but
much, but yeah.
not much at all. Goldfoot, maybe a little bit, but maybe likes to sit mid pack more. No Show Jones, maybe again,
Not
but
really.
never really. Let Seamus Go, who we touched on. 8 Clap has no early speed, and then there's Ario. So I'm just kind of envisioning with Pratt aboard, getting kind of a nice stalking outside trip and just kind of a little bit easier trip than someone like guy named Joe would get coming from the back in a race where there's not a whole lot of pace injected in it. And again, it's just fully pace dependent. Guy named Joe can definitely win. You can make a lot of cases in this, but I'm going 3rd, the Classic Alfie. And this is one, the Papadromo, who I just talked all this shit on, and 0 buyer first time out. But this is the Howard special, the 0 buyer first time out, coming second time out. You can see this dam is where I'm looking. Miss Alfie, not the best runner in her own right, never broke her maiden, but still ran some really nice, respectable numbers. 2-year-olds, she's produced 3 winners at 2 years old, 8 out of 14 in the money with an average buyer of 62, a best buyer of 80. And I'll go to the siblings here, guys. And 2020 vision, you see this 4,000 claimers of Mountaineer, but that's not where her best was. You look all the way back and you'll see she's grade 1 placed in the Eddie Reed, grade 3 placed, grade 3 placed, grade 2 showed, grade 3 showed. Like, she was a very, very nice horse running 100s, 101s, 98s. Then you go to the next one, Unusual Heat Wave. Again, on the turf, routing on the turf, 93. Get on the Tapeta, but 100, 86, 89. Then you go to the next one, Blame It All on Alfie, 91, 90, 94. 80, 83 running miles. And then Alfie's Bet, 91 in the La Jolla, and getting grade 2 showed. Grade 3 showed on the Tapeta. Just this damn, and then even going far 5 down, Ben Colebrook in 2020 in an optional claimer, but 81. These buyers are very, very respectable, and it just goes on and on for this dam. So coming from the dirt, getting back onto the turf, where I would assume this horse is going to be better, just based on, I know Classic Empire isn't the greatest with turf runners, only 9% on turf routes, but going from the dam, who's produced so many good runners on the turf, I would love to see Classic Alfie take a big step forward off the surface switch, maybe kind of underneath, just kind of a hunch play, run well after a zero buyer where you're going to probably get somewhere in the double digits. Look someone to classic Alfie to maybe spring a little bit of a price in your exactas and trifectas. I could just be high, honestly,
Yeah,
but
it could only
you
go
know,
up from here though. A zero
that's
figure can't get any worse.
no shit. And can't talk a double
And
digit off
then
if
runs
it's
a double
wrong.
zero. Then runs a double zero. And then we're gonna
Yeah,
go
and
from
then you can give me shit at that point. But real quick, guys, we'll go over best bets and end the show here. Noah's race number 5 is going with the best bet win on the number 5, Mo Fox Given. And in race number 8 is going with a triple Dutch double, and that's in the 2 main races. So he's going with the 5, 6, 7. That's She's the Law, Kinza, and Splendor, and then singling guy named Joe. And I'm sure he's going to mess around with the dollar amounts. Dutching is where you bet certain dollar amounts to be able to get paid out on multiple horses the same amount. So let's say you have $35, 10, and 5, but they all pay to 180 or something like that, and you mix the dollar amounts up. That's what Dutching is. 5, 6, 7 with 2 is his double in starting in race 8. Noah, good luck with your best bets. Charlie, I'll go to you next here, my friend. Race number 6, a cold double 5, 9. That is the number 5, America Red, White, Blue, singling into Stay Hot, I believe. And then an exacta, race 9. That's an exacta, excuse me, guys. Race 9, exacta, guy named Joe over the number 4 as I pull it up. The number 4, potential spam. So, Charlie, go ahead and talk about your best bets.
Yes, we kind of talked about it earlier with America Red, White, Blue. Horse showed great dirt form. Going back to the dirt for Glatt certainly looks live there, and I think you'll get a really nice price there because I think, as we touched on, the 3 for Yakutin and Pratt will be the favorite. And I just wanted to get some value with a horse that I trust in playing, and I feel like you and I talked just so many different positives about the 5 and different angles to look at that are basically just begging you to play against that heavy favorite. And then we talked about Stay Hot, not concerned about the figures that make the horse seem more similar to these other horses. Ran in some tough fields, looked unbelievable last time out. Will definitely get a pace to close into, and to me, looks like the class of this race. And again, I think honestly, I'm hoping that people pay attention to those speed figures and give the rest of the field more benefit of the doubt because I think Stay Hot should be a heavy favorite. Certainly should get some value, and I think we'll get a great stalking trip. And then for the last race, I mean, look, it's a tough sequence. It's a tough race, but ultimately, again, I just think guy named Joe. I understand that the horse hasn't gotten the job done yet, but spotted the field so many lengths last time out. I get that the horse doesn't have early speed and he likes to sit farther back, but he likes to sit 5, 6 lengths off the lead, not 9, and still got within half a length. I think with a cleaner trip this time out and not having to go 5 wide or whatever in the parking lot, I think guy named Joe can get the job done. And then I just wanted to play a little bit of a value one. This is probably a race where I'd probably play guy named Joe over a few horses. Maybe play him over Let Seamus Go or Ario to try to do that angle where you go with a speed and a closer. But ultimately, I'm just kind of hoping that potential spam can maybe sit a little more forward than guy named Joe and get more of a stalking trip and get the first jump on the speed in Ario and Let Seamus Go. And then ultimately guy named Joe passes everyone and they finishes the top 2 together. And I certainly think you'll get some nice value with potential spam. So I'm hoping for Doug O'Neill to get the top 2 together.
Yeah, no kidding. The Doug O'Neill exacta. Nothing wrong with that in California racing. Charlie, good luck with your best bets. And before we end the show, guys, my best bets. I'm also going with the best bet on the number 5, Mo Fox Given, off that trouble trip last time. The Mike's trying to attack my face as we go through this. I'm going value 4-1, guys. Again, we won't know exactly till the morning lines come out and where that value line will be placed. Again, at AP Roscoe K on Twitter. I post every single slate on my Twitter with my full picks for the day, including my best bets. So at AP Roscoe K, if you want to follow me over on X/Twitter. But 4-1 is where I'm leaning right now. I wouldn't necessarily take anything less. I just feel like that's a good price on a horse on a trouble trip last time with a big favorite that looks to take a lot of money and maybe cannot do it if he takes a little bit of pace pressure. So Mo Fox Given at 4-1. In race number 6, I'm also singling America Red, White, Blue in that race, and I'm going to take it into a double with the 8-9 in the next race. I'm going to go America Hope along with Stay Hot, and I'll Dutch them, kind of mix around the amounts, but just a base bet double 5 with 8-9 starting in race number 6. But Charlie, I mean, we got through this pretty well. It's a decent sequence on Friday, and the guys are covering Gulfstream Park this Thursday, 12/28. If you guys are watching this before then, please tune into that show with Gulfstream Park analyst Brian Nadeau. Not one you guys want to miss. If you're covering, if you're playing Gulfstream throughout this championship meet, as you should. This is the best time to play the races down in South Florida. But Charlie, like I said, thanks so much for joining on, man. Greatly appreciate it. And happy holidays to everyone out there. Again, hope you guys had a great Merry Christmas. If you guys celebrate, if you don't, hopefully you guys had a great holiday season and very early Happy New Year to you guys, as we will start betting and boozing. And I'll do the Howard teacher. We'll see you next year, guys. And hopefully we can continue. I know, I get it, but hopefully we can continue on the success that this podcast has gotten into next year. But for my co-host, Charlie Freeman, this has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode number 54 of Bettin and Boozin on the HHH Racing Podcast. And until next time, crush those bets, win those photos, and of course, stay safe, everyone. Have a great night. Again, happy holidays and an early Happy New Year.